Mellody Hobson, the current Starbucks chair, will become lead independent director, and she joins us right now, and we welcome her to the broadcast. And thank you for joining us, especially as this news is just crossing the tape. Mellody, tell us how this happened. There's obviously been a lot of challenges at Starbucks over the past year.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And it happened because our board a couple of months ago started to engage in a conversation about the leadership of the company. And I made an overture through someone to Brian, and he took the call. And we thought we had the opportunity to engage with one of the biggest names in the industry, someone whose track record is just clearly proven, not only through the spectacular results that he's had at Chipotle, but also before that at Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. He knows this industry, and we thought he would be the right leader for this moment.
Obviously, there's been a number of activists involved, and we can get to them in just a moment. But speak to what you see and what you think the board sees as the challenges that the company is facing today, and also how you think Brian is going to address them strategically, how he would be different, for example, than the approach that Laxman has taken.
First of all, I want to make sure that I'm very clear about the fact that Laxman is a brilliant mind. I have very much enjoyed working with him. He's a good guy. He brings great humor to everything that he does. He faced some headwinds and some challenges as he was coming into an industry cold, and we have to acknowledge that. At the same time, he actually pushed us forward on a bunch of things. We saw our partner engagement scores go up, turnover go down, and he started to address store operations and our supply chain. So there was movement there. But what we saw with Brian was someone who's quite honestly been there, done that, through all sorts of market environments, all sorts of cycles. And when I talked to him, I remember him saying, I know what to do. And he said, this is a speed bump in this company's history. This is not something that I fear going into. And that was something that for our board was extremely encouraging, because that's how we see it. We think this is a fundamentally sound company. The iconic Starbucks brand will continue to be great. And we're happy to have Brian there to help us restore that greatness.
So when he says, I know what to do, what is that? What are the kind of changes you think we're going to see?
You will hear from him when he comes in. I'm not going to get in front of him. And clearly he gets the opportunity to assess and talk to you directly. So he's not in the seat yet. Let's let him get there and then let him come out with his plans.
I mentioned that there were activists, Elliot, of course, involved in this company, Starboard, more recently. Have you consulted or discussed the possibility of bringing Brian on board with them?
We have not. So we look forward to engaging with all of our shareholders about this new development.
You mentioned that you engaged a couple months ago in this process, Mellody, and so I'm wondering if the Q2 results were a tipping point for the board.
There was a lot going on. We were looking at the business in lots of ways, so I don't want to make it about one thing. There wasn't a moment where we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is a smart group of people in that boardroom, and we were assessing a lot of issues at the same time and ultimately decided to make a decision to pivot in terms of leadership.
And Mellody, when you look at the Brian Niccol playbook, whether it was Taco Bell, whether it was Chipotle, it's always been fixing the culinary and fixing the technology. What did you see about his specific talents or strategic focus in the past that made you reach out to him as opposed to a lot of other great operators in the coffee space, in the fast dining space?
There was a lot. So first of all, he's a retailer through and through. He's an operator. He understands operations and how they should work and how to be efficient. He is an innovator. He's used innovation to really move that company forward. He is a culture carrier. That is something that is very big at Starbucks. Our culture means a lot. He understands how much the people affect the outcomes. And he has taken care of his people. He's a beloved leader. So those were the things when we looked at all of those pieces together, we said, this is the right person for this company. And especially when you think about the culture of Starbucks, the mission and values, what has made us great, I think that he just speaks to all of those sensibilities.
Hey, Mellody, there's been questions about the China business, strategic questions about whether an activist would push to franchise the business. With Brian in place, some of these kind of big strategic moves, are they taken off the table?
No, everything's on he will have the wheel. So let me make that extraordinarily clear, that he will be the one who will drive the strategy and the board will govern. And I would imagine that he will look at everything, as he should.
And in your sense of the relationship with labor, that's obviously been another big source of controversy, challenges, and the like. How does that change?
I think that we have made a lot of progress. We've had very constructive conversations, and I think he'll be pleased with that progress. So hopefully we'll stay on that course.
We also made note that Howard Schultz, of course, the longtime leader of this company, has made a number of critical comments quite publicly about Laxman, maybe not by name, but indirectly. He's out this morning in that statement of yours from Starbucks, very supportive of Brian. How does that relationship change?
So I want to make a point about founders, because I think it's very important. Founders have this unmatched intuition, and they have deep, deep, deep expertise that is not to be dismissed. I know a lot about this because I'm married to a founder, George Lucas. I work alongside of a founder, John Rogers at Ariel, and I've been in a boardroom with the most iconic founders of our generation, Howard Schultz in particular, Jeffrey Katzenberg, David Geffen, founding members of the Lauder family. When you think about those individuals, they care deeply about the company they created. I call them the Obi-Wan Kenobis of their companies. And as a board, we appreciate that feedback and we consider it. I think that's something that's very, very important. So when you think about Howard on a going basis, he has no formal role in the company. He's our chairman emeritus. He does not have a board seat. He's our founder, who is always going to be revered and respected for what he built. And his relationship with the leader of the company will be one that he will build with that person. But I know how excited he is. When I called him and told him what we were doing and what I had been working on and what the board had been pursuing, he said, "Mellody, that's a home run."